My name is Ken Long. I happen to be the chairperson of the Adelaide Sustainable Building Network. If you all could join me and as we bring Jackson up onto the stage. Another legend. Stands incredibly tall, especially on a stage.
Now I understand why you have this.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a big man on campus. But Passive House certified designer in trade and Enduro builders are doing incredible things all across SA. So please, Jackson, take it away.
Thank you. So it's a big deal at Enduro builders to finish on time, start on time. So to keep to time, and I'm going to mean that I might not satisfy the technically minded here, but I think Tony did it. I'm presenting our display home. It's one of only 2 completed and actually certified passive houses in South Australia. It's also the first certified passive house in South Australia to win a Master Builders Award for sustainable and environmental construction. The display home is in Spring Lake in Mount Barker. We chose this site because it's got great views to the east. We knew that it was going to have its largest facade on the south side, so there'd be heaps of heat loss. And we also knew that there was going to be a thumping great house built on the north, which was going to pretty much block all of our northern access. So it made it perfect for demonstrating the building physics first process of certified passive house and how it ensures that you overcome site orientation issues in a really reliable way and know what building performance you're going to get before you actually do any building. So we started with a blank slate and dug some holes, filled them in with concrete. We used Boral Envirocrete on this build, and you can see the beginnings of the underslab insulation up in the left-hand corner there. Then you can see we did all of the underslab insulation and then poured the topping slab, and in the other photo you can see the topping slab and the round earth wall. So the whole slab inside the house is insulated from the ground. So from here I'm going to jump around a bit on details. So this is just a detail showing where we've met the requirements of a passive house. Essentially, you need to deal with thermal bridges properly, from calculating them to building as per your calculations. So you can see in this photo a half completed section of slab edge insulation on the right hand side. On the right of that photo is the insulation with the MGO board protection installed, and on the left is the bit that we haven't installed yet. The orange stuff on the top is the termite treatment. Then on the left here is the evolution of that slab detail, where we've now installed all of the cavity closures, the cladding and the cavity battens. On the right is an image that's showing the beginnings of a thermal bridge free detail. So that blue strip that you can see running down next to the ladder is basically covering the steel and protecting it from the outdoor environment. So for the more technically minded, I've got one technically minded slide. On the right here is the detail of that steel column, and on the left is the thermal bridge model showing the heat flow around the steel column. This temperature field it's one of the outputs of the thermal bridge calculation process, and we found these really useful for all of our homes for getting a really quick understanding of heat flows through constructions, regardless of whether it's a passive house or not. It just allows us to really quickly see whether something that we want to do is going to cause a health problem inside the house, which essentially boils down to mold. All the design detailing, thermal bridge modelling and the PHVP work, like Tony talked about, the passive house planning package, that was all done by us in-house. So here's a photo of some details to do with air tightness. So one really critical thing with certified passive house is you have to think ahead. And you have to do that from the very first design. You've got to be thinking through how everything is going to be built. And that actually helps you, not only does it help make sure that it's going to be a passive house, but it also helps with making sure that the build runs on time and that all of the costs are worked out before you start. So this is an example of us installing the connection strip. So in the top left, you can see us putting the connection strip on top of the bottom lower level walls. And then on the right, you can see that same strip wrapped around the floor framing. And then on the bottom left, you can see the strip wraps back up the inside of the upstairs wall. So once we got all the frames up, we obviously finished off the external membranes, which essentially gave us a watertight house. And I know I'm biased, but I think the guys did a fantastic job. One of those guys is sitting here tonight. We moved on to insulating the house. You can see some photos of a well-insulated house. And these photos, a lot of the ones that I'm showing tonight, are part of hundreds of photos that get taken during the construction of a certified passive house, and all have to go to the institute at completion for them to verify that you did what you said you were going to do. If you squint, you can see a dark line at the bottom of the left photo and the same at the top of the right photo. This is that connection strip that I showed earlier, which sits behind the internal airtight membrane. So getting details like this is straightforward with a bit of care and critical thinking, and it's critical in achieving the airtightness requirements for a passive house. Here's a bit of work from another presenter tonight. That's the HRV system. So Jono Hindry did the HRV, or he does the HRV on all our homes. So you can see the early stage of all of that ducting coming downstairs into the spot where the HRV is. And then the finished product, which is delivering fresh, clean, filtered air into the house 24/7. Here's some finished photos. So one of our goals was to showcase that you can have a passive house and have it be a light-filled space. You don't have to scrimp on windows. Some more photos of the finishes. One of my design needs was a big entry void, and the point of that was we had a really tight site, so we wanted to make sure that the house felt a lot larger than its footprint. It also meant that we got a lot of vertical air movement past the rammed earth wall, which helps with just helping to regulate the temperature. So what's the future hold for passive house in South Australia? So we have 2 certified passive houses under construction at the moment, as well as 14 other projects that are at various degrees of implementation of the pillars of a passive house. So this means we've been able to provide a high level of surety about building performance prior to construction to the homeowners. The Torrens Park project is on track to be done in October. The Yankalila project is just a render at the moment because we're not starting the site works till next week. We also have 3 more in design. 2 at a stage where we have rendered images to show. One is only recently signed on, so we're just at the beginning of drawing plans for them. The other 19 projects that we have in design are all benefiting from that implementation of the pillars of a passive house that Tony talked about briefly. And what that means is that although those homeowners are not doing a certified passive house, which in my book is totally fine, they are benefiting from those pillars, which means they're going to get a healthy house with no mold risk. And that's all you can really ask for. If you want to come and look at the display home, you can book a tour. If you're really fast, you can get a photo of that before Ken clicks it off. And that's it. Thank you.